In the last video, we covered the sequential pattern, which is perfect when steps depend on each other. But what if they are completely independent? Imagine you're generating LinkedIn post, Instagram caption, and Twitter thread, all about the same topic. Sequential execution makes you wait for each one to finish before starting the next, which is inefficient. Here's the good news. Today, we're fixing that with the parallel pattern. By the end of this video, you will learn how to build multi-platform content generator in parallel for LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, using both approaches, Python and N8N. So what is the parallel pattern? First, instead of running AI tasks one after another, we execute multiple independent tasks at the same time. Second, everything run in parallel, so total execution time drops dramatically. Third, your system makes better use of available resources instead of waiting around. And finally, it's perfect for input-output bound work, like API calls or LLM requests, where waiting is the real bottleneck. It's better to use the parallel pattern when tasks are independent, when you're waiting for API calls or database queries, when speed matters, and when you have enough resources that can handle simultaneous calls. Don't use it when tasks are dependent, when order matters, and when you have low API rates. Sometimes it's just not worth the complexity. For example, if you're saving 1 or 2 seconds, just keep it simple. Now let's have a look at the architecture. First, we start with the single input, for example, a topic. That input is sent in parallel to multiple AI models, each acting as an independent component. An aggregator collects all the responses and finally produces a single clean output. Now that you understand the theory, let's build our multi-platform content generator. This is a simple simulation before starting our demo. Basically, we'll have an input, how AI is transforming content marketing in 2026. This input, it will be sent in parallel to 3 LLMs in order to generate LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram content. And finally, we will have an aggregator who will combine all these results in one final output. To implement our demo for the coding part, we will be using Python, Groq, LangChain, and concurrent features in order to run parallel threads. For the no-code part, we'll be using N8N. Now let's start Python implementation. As you can see, I already activated my environment and also installed all the requirements. If you don't know how to do it, please watch the previous video. So let's start the implementation. I have a file multi-platform content generator.py. So let's import OS, import time in order to calculate the execution time, .env, .Groq. And in this demo, we will need concurrent features, especially ThreadPoolExecutor and as completed. ThreadPoolExecutor will help us to run all the threads in parallel, and as completed, he will collect all the completed threads. So load.env, initialize our Groq LLM. Next, we need to define 3 functions, one for LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So basically, in this function, we will be using a prompt and also the LLM. As you can see, we have a prompt using the topic, create a professional LinkedIn post about the topic, and we have some requirements. Next, we call the LLM using this prompt, and then return the results. We will do the same thing for Instagram and Twitter. As you can see here, we changed the prompts for Twitter and Instagram. So now we need to generate all the social media content in parallel. So let's display starting message. Next, we need to start the time in order to start the calculation. Then we need to create a thread pool with 3 workers. Next, we need to create 3 executors. For LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Next step is to create futures list. And then results collection in order to collect our results. The next step now is to iterate on all the executions and collect them when they are completed. Now let's get the end time. Also calculate the execution time and print the execution time. Then we need to get the content of the executions. You'll do the same for Instagram and Twitter. And finally, return the results, including the execution time. Now the next step is to display the results. So we will be using the results and then print LinkedIn results, Instagram results, and Twitter results, and finally the execution time. Let's define our main, specify a topic. So our topic is how AI is transforming content creation in 2026. All right, it looks good. So let's test our script. It works. By the way, before running the script, please specify the Groq API key in the .env. So let's see the results. Parallel execution, we have the topic, starting LinkedIn, Twitter thread completed, and the others are completed. So it takes 1.23 seconds, LinkedIn post, Instagram caption, and Twitter thread. Now let's implement our multi-platform content generator in N8N. So let's start a workflow. We will use the same name, multi-platform content generator. We need a trigger. Next, an input. Let's use the same topic. Input. Now we need to add 3 LLMs in parallel. Another LLM chain. Now let's connect the input to the 3 LLMs. Now we need to add the models. Add Groq and specify the model. We will use the same model in our Python script. As you can see here, I already configured my account. If you don't know how to do it, please watch the previous video. Let's add the second one. And the third one. Now let's configure our prompts. First one, it will be for LinkedIn. We need to replace the input. And let's rename this LLM chain LinkedIn. Next, we will do the same for Instagram. and finally for Twitter. Now we need to add an aggregator or a merger. We need 3 inputs because we're using 3 LLMs. Let's connect. We also need another final node, data transformation. I will use JavaScript data transformation. I already prepared the script. So basically what we're doing here is just to pick up the data from the merger, clean the data, and display it in a better structure. I think we have everything. So now let's test our workflow. Good. Workflow executed successfully. Now let's have a look to the results. So first we have our input, how AI is transforming content marketing in 2026. So this is the input and the output from the first LLM, input and output for Instagram, which is the second LLM, and also the same for Twitter. So this is our merger. And finally, this is our last node. Basically, we have the platform and the content. So this is LinkedIn and the post. Twitter, this is the thread. And for Instagram, this is the caption. If you would like to learn more about AI automation and best practices, subscribe to the channel. Your support really helps me keep going.